Some hospitals are running out of ICU beds because the Delta variant is rapidly spreading across the country and around the world. There's officially more than 200 million.
Hello, today I present to you an extremely attractive application for music lovers. It's completely free. You can listen to music online or download unlimited music to use whenever you don't have internet. The powerful search function helps you find anything you want. Trust me. It's hard not to find what you're looking for because the search function is really powerful. Application download link is attached in the description of the video. I'm pretty sure you'll like it. Thanks.
In cases, 200 million confirmed COVID cases around the globe as many countries struggle to receive and distribute life-saving vaccines. Now, this comes as President Biden plans to require vaccines for all foreign travelers as the administration looks to ease travel restrictions despite the growing surge in variant cases. The president is also clashing with several Republican governors over mask mandates and vaccine requirements. He slammed Governors Ron DeSantis of Florida and Greg Abbott of Texas for their, quote, bad health policies as cases soar in both of those states. Florida has become the new epicenter of the coronavirus. Health officials there reported more than 12,000 hospitalizations just yesterday alone. Manuel Bojorquez is following the crisis.
The CEO of this hospital chain tells me they're simply trying to weather the storm right now, but come Monday, they will have to suspend all elective procedures for now to accommodate the surge of COVID-19 patients. More than 90% are unvaccinated. Inside Memorial Healthcare System in Broward County, ICU beds are once again filling up fast.
It has gone up 400% in the last 6 weeks.
Aurelio Fernandez is the president and CEO of Memorial, which recently added 266 extra beds to keep up with demand.
We have converted conference centers, auditoriums, cafeterias to get the surge. And these are clean patients. We don't put COVID patients in these overflow areas.
But these overflow areas for patients who are not COVID positive have to be built because of the ones who are.
That is correct.
That surge includes children. As of yesterday, 135 children under 18 in Florida are hospitalized with COVID, the highest it's ever been.
But you aren't going to help, at least get out of the way.
On Tuesday, President Biden called out hotspot governors, including Florida's Ron DeSantis, for failing to implement restrictions, including mask mandates in schools. That is something the governor has no intention of doing.
He thinks that should be a decision for the government. Well, I can tell you in Florida, the parents are going to be the ones in charge of that decision.
DeSantis argued Biden's immigration policies are responsible for the surge, claiming, without any evidence, that undocumented immigrants are causing the virus to spread.
Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. Thank you.
The rise of COVID in Florida is because of the Delta variant and its infectiousness, and secondarily because of permissive behavior.
CBS News medical contributor Dr. David Agus says COVID cases are surging in Florida for other reasons.
With low vaccination rates and going out without masks and in large groups, you're going to get significant spread of the virus, period.
And just last week, DeSantis signed an executive order that would pull funding from districts that require masks.
The minimum we could do to protect all of the people who decided to get vaccinated or not is to put our mask on, even if we're vaccinated.
John Moreno Escobar, who is running for the Broward County School Board and whose son Luca will begin first grade this year, believes it's up to parents to convince those who are hesitant. How would you try to convince them that the masks are a good thing in the schools?
We are protecting others by putting the mask on. Putting a mask is protecting the life of someone else, and life is sacred, and we should protect it all as a community.
Another challenge facing hospitals isn't necessarily capacity, but staffing shortages. According to the Florida Hospital Association, 60% of hospitals in the state could face a critical staffing shortage within the next week. Anne-Marie, Vlad?
Manuel, thank you. So let's go straight to Medical Director of First Call Medical Center, Dr. Ron Elfenbein, to talk more about this. So, Doctor, Florida is now the coronavirus epicenter in the U.S. Are you concerned about the hospitals there in that state, whether or not they'll be able to handle the overflow or whether they'll become overwhelmed? And what do you think needs to happen to slow the spread?
Good morning. Yes, I am concerned, and I think most people are. Right now, I believe that the number is about 84% of the inpatient beds in Florida, in the state of Florida, are full. And I think it's about 87% of the ICU beds are full, which doesn't portend well for the future. And as in that last piece, the CEO of the hospital was saying that, that they're building excess beds for non-COVID patients. You've got to remember that all the COVID patients displace other people. So, it's a common occurrence in emergency medicine, for example, where you have to transfer people to other states because there's not enough beds in your state to care for the people who are from that state. So patients from Florida might have to move to neighboring states or even as far away as 2 or 3 states away because there's just not enough beds in Florida. That's not unique to Florida. That's a problem nationwide. But I think Florida is going to be the first one that we're going to see this major problem in.
So, Dr. Ron, just help me understand, hospitalizations are up in the state 13%. When we talk about those numbers, hospitalizations, people who are being admitted to the hospital because they've been infected with COVID-19, that means they're really sick, right? It's not people who have contracted the virus but are taking a couple of days off and are quarantining in their homes. This means somebody who's very, very ill.
Yes, absolutely. To be hospitalized with COVID means you need oxygen, you need more intervention than you can do at home. Absolutely. Remember that of those people that are being hospitalized in Florida, 96% are unvaccinated. 96%. So this is a problem of unvaccinated people primarily. So the take-home message there is get your vaccine. It will save your life. It will keep you from being hospitalized.
So Pfizer had said that there's a possibility that people may need a booster shot. Now Moderna says that people who receive the COVID vaccine from them potentially need a 3rd dose this winter. So this talk of a booster shot, is it because the efficacy is waning, or is it because of the Delta variant and what other variants may be coming along?
So I think it's a mixture of both. So we've seen from data from other countries and longitudinal data from the United States that people who got their shots back in December, early January, their immunity seems to be, in some instances, waning to some extent. The data from Israel that looked specifically at the Delta variant showed that Pfizer only, because Moderna's not approved in Israel, but Pfizer only was still about 91% efficacious at keeping you from being hospitalized or getting very sick with COVID, but the efficacy dropped to about 64% with keeping you from catching COVID. But remember, the vaccines were not designed to keep you from catching COVID. They were designed to keep you from dying or being hospitalized with COVID, and they are still doing that very, very well. The data bears that out. So again, get your vaccine. It will save your life. It will keep you from being hospitalized. The data shows that. We know that. So there's really no reason people should not be vaccinated, of course, unless there's a medical reason. But everybody else, get your vaccine, please.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says that nearly 72,000 children have tested positive for COVID in the past week. That's up from 39,000 the week prior. Why are we seeing this spike? We had been told throughout the course of the early days of the pandemic, Dr. Elfenbein, that children were not at risk for COVID-19. Now, just remind us, and remind me particularly, was it that children were not at risk of being infected, or was it that they were not spreaders, or were they not going to get sick? I mean, I know that the way we are talking about children now is very different than the way we were talking about them back in April of last year.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Vlad. So all of the above. So kids initially were not spreaders. They were not likely to get infected with it. They were not likely to get sick from it. Initially, for the last year or so, only about, of all the cases that we've seen in the United States, kids represented only about 14%. As of the end of July, that number jumped to 19%. So you see that children are becoming more likely to be infected. Now, part of that is because, if you think about it, who were the initial groups that were going to get infected with COVID? It was the elderly. It was the at-risk, vulnerable populations. 99+% of those people have now been vaccinated. So they are very unlikely to catch COVID now. So it's kind of moving, and now it's targeting more likely kids. So in Florida, 50% of those people that have now been hospitalized, 50% are between the ages of 25 and 55. So that demographic is moving lower and lower. Now, of course, that also includes some children. But again, kids, if they catch COVID still, they're less likely to get very ill from it, and they're less likely to have to be hospitalized. Right now, I believe the number is 0.2% of all COVID deaths are children. That's only been 526 kids. Now, everyone's a tragedy. I'm not minimizing that, but of all the people who died from COVID, only 526 were classified as children. So again, it's still very uncommon that kids will get very sick from COVID, but it is possible, and more kids we're not seeing infection more rampant in children than we were ever before.
So, Doctor, as soon as we were told that it's okay to maybe remove our masks under certain circumstances, the mask debate is back again. Florida's Governor DeSantis threatened to pull funding from schools requiring students to wear masks. Meanwhile, in Arkansas, the governor there wants to flip a mask ban. He had actually signed into law, banning schools from mandating mask wearing. He wants to call state legislators back in to reverse that ban because he thinks schools should be able to make the decisions on their own based on their population and their concerns. So sort of where we are now in this journey, what's your best advice when it comes to masks? Who should be wearing them, where, and what type of masks, considering the information we're getting about how contagious the Delta variant is?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's very confusing for people. So I would say regarding schools, I think that the governor of Arkansas in this case is right, that it should be up to the local school district to decide what they want to do and how they want to do it. I don't think that the federal government should be mandating it. I don't think the state government. I think the local school board should make that decision based on their risk tolerance and their assessment of what's going on the ground. I'm always in favor of localities making those decisions. Regarding everybody else, this really is, as I said before, a problem of the unvaccinated. So I think, we have to be careful when we're making large sort of recommendations and large mandates for people based on only the people who choose not to get vaccinated. That being said, my advice would be wear your mask. It's really not that big a deal. Just put it on. And I would say if you can get yourself an N95, wear an N95. It is infinitely better than a cloth mask. Those little cloth things that kind of come up here and they cover, they look like a sock. Those do not do anything at all. And I'm not even sure why people use them. If you need to wear, if you can't get an N95, at least make it a surgical mask or a cloth mask. But those like Lycra sock things, they don't really do anything, and they're just sort of maybe make you feel better, but in actuality probably put you at higher risk because it gives you a false sense of security. So I would tell people if you don't, it's not that big a burden when you're around other people. Just put a mask on. Again, but this is a problem of the unvaccinated. This spread that we're seeing. As I said before, the data in Israel still shows that the vaccines are very, very efficacious at keeping you from getting sick with COVID. So get your vaccine and wear a mask.
Dr. Ron Elfenbein, as always, we thank
you.
Yeah, really
so
is.
simple.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, guys.